Good morning, and thank you for joining us at the first UK domain webinar in association with startups. My name's Neil Dagger. I'm joined by my colleague Sam Jeffries.
Nice to meet you all.
Glad you could be with us today. We've got some pretty exciting things to tell you about. We're going to try and walk through the journey that most businesses would take when they're kind of starting out and thinking about their online journey. Just to give you a few kind of housekeepings, we're going to run for about 45 minutes. With some slides, show you how some of the things appear. I'm going to tell you about what Nominate do, how we can help you. We're going to just touch very briefly on why businesses today need to have an online presence, which is something that offline businesses don't think about perhaps, or there are certain myths that put them off kind of taking those first steps to get online. We're going to touch on how to secure a great domain name. Then we move on to building your website, and there are some choices that we need to tell you about. Then we're going to touch on social media and how you use that to build traffic to your website. And we're going to end with some free resources and some next easy steps to get you started, and then we'll finish up after about 45 minutes with a Q&A. So let's get straight into it. So first of all, some of you will know the UK domain, some of you may know Nominate, especially if you owned some domain names before or in the past. But for those of you who don't know Nominate, we manage 12 million domain names on the .uk registry. So that is every domain name that end in .co.uk, .uk or .org.uk. We're the third largest domain name registry in the world. We connect over 3 million businesses and millions more individuals with great domain names. We're part of the UK's critical national infrastructure, and we provide cybersecurity for large businesses and government. We're also a profit-for-purpose company with a very strong public benefit ethos running through everything we do. Over the last 8 years, over 50% of our profits have been ploughed back into charitable social enterprise, and we're a leading tech for good company. So in terms of what we can do to help you guys, every day we help small businesses benefit from being online and provide trusted expert advice on how to get online and grow online. So thinking about businesses across the UK and how consumers shop, today with over 80% of consumers searching online for products before making a purchase decision, any business that isn't online is simply invisible to a huge number of potential customers, representing millions of pounds in lost revenue. Research tells us that still 30% of small businesses are offline, but these are increasingly businesses that have been around for some years, who maybe started when the internet was not as prevalent as it is today. Most new businesses do tend to understand that the internet is just part of doing business. It's just part of the things they need to do in the same way as running their accounts. But it still means there's about 1 million businesses across the UK with no online presence, no website, and they're not sure where to go to build that online brand and engage with customers. So the important point to take away here is that if you're not online, you are simply invisible. And when the consumer searches online, it is your competitor that will get found. So the internet is really your friend in your pocket. 90% of consumers now go showrooming. They have the internet with them when they're in the shops. They're looking for great deals online. They use the shop to pick up the thing and to try it, and then they use the internet to say, can I get this cheaper elsewhere? So if you look at the section at the bottom there, people go online for discovery. It is not just about purchasing things. It's about just asking some basic questions. Where's the store? Where can I park? Are they still open? And have they got my size in stock, or do they do it in my colour? Also important to think of the way small businesses are growing in the UK. About 50,000 businesses start every month. That's around 200,000 a year. Increasingly, new businesses will be online. So if you're an existing business that's been operating offline, the competition is increasing every day. Some research that we have just found is that half of all small businesses are actually looking into going online in the next 2 years. So it's great that you're on this webinar today, because it shows hopefully that you are in that group of companies who are thinking seriously about taking their businesses online. So some basic things to think about. First of all, the name of your business. Do you have a great name that stands out and helps customers understand what you do, or perhaps where you operate from. Then you need to think about choosing a great domain name which you'll use for your website and your email address, your business email address, and it should match your company name. It should be easy to say, easy to spell, and very easy to remember, because you're going to be saying it a lot on the phone. How do you spell that? It needs to be clear. So then you move into deciding how you create your website. We'll touch on some choices there, and then we'll think about the social media channels that will operate like a satellite around the center of your online world, which is your website. So let's start off with, how do I register a domain name? Currently in the UK, there are about 20 million domain names. Over 12 million of these are managed by Nominate. They end in .uk, like .co.uk, .org.uk, and the new shorter .uk. But there's also alternatives like .com, .net, .club, .info, and hundreds of others. The choice is today greater than it's ever been. So when you're looking for a domain name, you should expect that often your first choice of domain name may already be taken. So it's important to think of some options and some alternatives that you would consider. Some business owners today actually don't even name their business until they've registered their domain name and their social media identities, to make sure that they can get the same name as their company, as their domain name, as their social media channels. So to be sure you get the one you want, act early. Even if you're just thinking of a future business idea, really important to get the domain name early and the social media handles. So which domain name ending is the best one for your website and email address? Trust and familiarity are very important concepts that you should think about. The .uk domain name is the most trusted, it's the most familiar. We had some recent research from last year called a Trust and Awareness Research by Insight Engineers, which reported that 58% of consumers trust a .uk domain more than any other domain. You can see under the first bullet there some of the different choices. We also operate .cymru, .wales if your business happens to be operating from within Wales. So it's the most familiar, it's the most trusted, and it puts your business on the map. It tells your customers that you're based in the UK. And if I can direct you to the green, whatever you call that, the green circle, the green balloon floating there. From research that we do every year, 3/4 of all consumers, when they're looking to make a purchase online, prefer to click first on a domain name that ends in .uk. So there's some pretty strong reasons for thinking about choosing a .uk domain. So to start the search, visit a website called the ukdomain.uk. On the left side of the screen, you'll see there what the homepage looks like. It's a site that's dedicated to free, trusted online help and support to get you online and to grow your business online. We add new articles all the time. There's lots of downloads and tips and tricks and things to consider. But if I can direct you to the top right-hand corner where the red circle is, you click on there and the page on the right-hand side of the screen will open, which is a simple search box where you will type in the name of the domain that you're looking for. It's quite safe to type it in and click next. You won't have bought it. There are a few more steps to go through. So you've typed in your domain name or the name of your business to see if it's still available. If it is, great. You've got some green ticks. You can see it's available and there's various choices that come down the page. You choose the one you like. Many businesses get the .co.uk and the .uk to stop somebody else registering the other. So you type it in and see if it's still available. If it isn't available, if someone's got the name already, first choice has been taken, we'll instantly search. You click on where the red circle is there, show alternative options. We'll instantly search and recommend similar available alternatives. You simply click on the one you like. At that stage, we present you with a selection of registrars, which are also known as domain name resellers. And these businesses provide internet web services. Their business is all about helping you get online, grow online, running your email, hosting your website, and providing all sorts of services that just help your business grow online. So we'll present you with a selection. You can scroll through the list, you can click on one. Each one you click on will open to their landing page in a new window, so you can compare services and options and see if you like what they're talking about and if they offer the sorts of things you're you're interested in, still with no obligation. You don't click, you haven't bought. So here are just some of the options. I typed in a domain name earlier, and I went off and visited 5 randomly just to kind of see what the landing page looked like, so you can get an idea for the domain name. It says, great, it's available. It shows you some prices. Often when you choose the domain name, it will then offer you, would you like to build a website? Would you like email account? Would you like us to host it? There are some options that you go through to basket. But domain names, a lot of people think, these things cost hundreds of pounds. But actually domain names can start for as low as, I found 2 offers here for 99p, but sometimes they're even less than that. So make your choice and have your credit card or your PayPal account ready to complete your registration as you move through to the basket. So hopefully success, you've got your domain name. Then you've got to think about website creation. And there are 4 main choices that we settled on. The first option is build it yourself using a dedicated site builder. WordPress.com, Wix, Weebly are 3 of the most famous and popular options. They're low cost, they're charged monthly, very easy to use, and they're flexible as your needs grow. Secondly, also a very easy option is to use the drag and drop website building template service that your registrar offers. If you kind of like the idea of a one-stop shop approach, then that can make a lot of sense. They'll often help you by phone or online. They might have chat and they'll take you through it. And if you really get stuck, sometimes they'll pick up the reins and do it for you. And they have different options, so explore those. The third option, which is the most flexible but does require some technical knowledge, is using as a complete web customization with a CMS or content management system. You'll find one that is very popular at WordPress.org. And then lastly, there is the most flexible and the most personalized and unique route, but it can cost a bit more money, which is asking an expert web designer. Many people know people who design websites, and that's when they turn to the friend, the student, the colleague, the person they know, or they might even visit a local web designer. So there's 4 choices. But whichever route you take, once your website is set up and you've developed it and you've played around with it, you can test it before you push it live. So you don't have to worry about something that's half-baked suddenly appearing online. And once you've created your website and you're ready to go, you return back to the registrar who you registered your domain name with, and there's a portal that they give you when you sign up, and that's where you connect the registered domain name with your website, so that when you send out the website domain name to your customers or your prospects, or you put it on your van, that will link it through, so that when they come through to your website, that's the domain name that appears at the top of the page, and that's the domain name on your email address. So remember, the website is your 24/7 shop window. And a basic website, this is not about e-commerce from day one. It's not about selling things. You just need some very basic information to put on there. Your name, your contact details, what you sell, where you are, your opening hours, how you're different, your unique selling proposition, some images, perhaps a helpful map, just very basic things. And often websites will start with 1 or 2 pages, and then they grow from these simple origins and adapt as the business grows. Selling online may follow if it's suitable for your business, but the key goal is that you need to be found where your customers are browsing, and encourage them to sign up. Try and engage your customers to sign up and follow you, ask you questions, get a newsletter so that you can show them special offers. You might have a monthly special offer, and to encourage you on social media. So one of the options I just told you about was WordPress.com. So I thought it might just be helpful if I showed you a couple of the screens if you're not familiar with it. It is just a simple website. It's not a piece of software that you have to download. It's just a website. You can go there, you sign up, it's free. You can play around with the software before you make any commitments. You can see if it's right for you. As an example, in the top right-hand corner is, here's one I made earlier. It's just a website I made about my bike. Just to show how easy it was, and that was something I put together in about half an hour, and I'm not a technical person. Then at the bottom of the screen there are the different pricing options. WordPress being American, they price in dollars, but it's $4 for a month for a basic service, $8 a month for a slightly more business focused product, perhaps with some greater search engine optimization options, which is something we'll cover in a subsequent webinar. I mentioned Wix and Weebly, and again, they're just simple websites. So you just type the URL into your browser, and they come up, and you sign up. It's free to sign up, and they guide you through with some really attractive templates, which are very kind of flexible, dragging things around. It's very similar to PowerPoint. Some registrars have similar options, so that when you choose the domain name, they will often, and here's 3 I picked at random. You complete the website, the registration of your domain name, and then they talk to you about their website options. They often have templates, and they guide you through the process, and they offer to do it for you. And they do try and make it as easy as possible, because they recognize that at the point you're registering your domain name is at the start often of your business journey. So it's in their interest to make it as simple as possible for you. So once you've got the center of your online world in place, your website, it's time to think about social media. The first thing to think about is, which is the most likely social media that your customers would be using? There's no point being on LinkedIn if actually all your customers prefer Instagram. So think about what your target customers use. Social media is a great addition to your website, but it's not an alternative. So if we go through the main 4 in turn, Facebook is free, but the downside is it's easy to set up, but the downside is that you look like every other business on Facebook. You don't stand out as different, you're not really in control, but it's great for engaging a following, for sharing links, and for directing business back to your landing page. Twitter, great for businesses, but it does need frequent attention. So you have to sort of be fairly disciplined and think, right, I'm going to do 2 tweets a month, and one will be special offers, and the second will be what's going on in my store or in my business this month, and it will help build a following. LinkedIn is very business to business focused, great for networking and recruitment. Instagram is great if you're running a cafe or a restaurant or some food, something that's kind of visual, which lends itself to kind of high quality photography. That's a great way of promoting your business. Increasingly, people are using Instagram. Also worth remembering, don't neglect YouTube. Video is very important as a social media channel, and Pinterest is also gaining momentum. So today we've only scratched the surface, really. We've only touched on a few main points to consider, just to give you some guides. But if you want more, we've created a set or a series of free expert guides that are packed with checklists and top tips, and maybe I could introduce you to a couple of them. So first of all, why not go to our website and download our free guide to why you should get online. It's packed with expert advice, top tips, and ends with an action plan. It goes to the reasons why you need to get online, and some kind of top level how you should get online. And it comes with some nice little customer case studies as well. We've got 6 other guides, something we've done with FSB called FSB First Voice, which is their membership magazine, which is all about growing online. How to stay safe online, which talks about some very basic cybersecurity things you can do to kind of keep your business safe, how you use data, keeping your software secure from phishing and viruses. We've worked with the Dummies people to create a Getting Your Business Online for Dummies guide. The new version is just out, so we'll be releasing that to the website soon if it's not there already. We've created a Getting Started with SEO guide, so there'll be more on SEO in a subsequent webinar. Some people have a domain name that they bought in error and they wish they could choose a better one, so we produced a guide on how to move from perhaps a domain name that you bought in error or that you've been using a while and realized, oh God, that's really difficult to spell and people keep getting it wrong, or there's another business that's very similar and they keep getting my traffic. So we've produced a very simple guide as to how you move to a great new domain name. And with the startups team, we've produced 50 great tips for promoting your website. So this is the first of our webinars, How to Get My Business Online. There are 3 more in the series, How Do I Promote My Business Online, Building a Great Content Plan, and Understanding How to Analyze My Website Performance. We'll release dates on when those are coming up soon, so keep an eye on the startups.co.uk website for information on dates. So just to close now, I wanted to leave you with a 7-point action plan. Everybody likes a checklist, so here's one we've put together. Start out choosing a great domain name that does what your company says. It tells people what you do and maybe where you are, and it's really clear matches your company name, and it's a great email address as well, so that you present a consistent image. The way you sound and communicate online should come across the same way that you promote yourself face-to-face when you're talking to a customer or a prospect. Then you choose a registrar who will provide you with the domain name and possibly build your website for you and provide you with other online services like email and hosting. Then you decide what you want your website to do, how it should look, what it needs to contain. So you might write a brief out for that. Then you might decide, do I do it myself? Do I get my registrar? Or do I go to a web designer expert? Then you choose a platform. You move ahead and build your website. Most importantly, step 6, you've got to test your website, maybe show it to friends and relatives, get them to try it. Where do they get stuck? What do they like? What do they not like? Make those improvements. And then lastly, step 7, use social media to attract customers to your website and learn from their behavior. If something's working, do more of it. If it isn't working, then stop doing it and move on and try something else. Okay, so let's move into the Q&A session. I think we're a little ahead of time. I'm going to open up to Sam, who's been keeping an eye on questions.
Yeah, thanks Neil, that was great. Thanks for all the questions so far. Please do keep them coming either in the chat box or on the questions box. We've had a bunch so far, so I'll go through those. First one is from Bob, so this is one for Neil. What is the difference, what is the different angle from a B2B perspective when getting your business online, and any difference between that and B2C?
Okay, yeah, good question. Okay, if you are targeting consumers, you are thinking more about reaching people perhaps when they're at home, so that might determine the time that you tweet. If you're going to use Twitter, the website needs to be simple and to be using keywords and terms that the consumer will be thinking about when they search for a business like yours. From a business-to-business perspective, there will be different places that business users will be searching for information. They'll be doing it more often during office hours. There'll be certain websites that businesses use. You might be thinking more promoting your business on online directories, perhaps working with trade associations. Sam, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, as Neil mentioned earlier on, you need to really be where your customers hang out. So he gave a few examples of different social media websites. For example, LinkedIn is good for recruitment. For most people, still, in terms of social media, Facebook tends to be the best choice simply because the biggest audience are there. But it's then finding communities where your audience exists within. For example, if you're a tradesperson, you might find that some of the landlord communities up and down the country are a great place to get involved with. For example, in every town in city, there's usually 2 or 3 landlord meetups, and each of those meetups tends to have their own websites and certainly their own Facebook pages. So perhaps becoming an expert within those communities, becoming seen as the go-to person answering questions. That way, then you're focusing more on a kind of a B2B level rather than B2C. But the same principles would apply, I would say.
I'd say, yeah, to sum it up then, I'd say if you're thinking business to business, you definitely should consider Twitter and LinkedIn. And if you're thinking business B2C, business to consumers, think Instagram and Facebook at a really simple level.
Yeah. We've got a question here from Jennifer. Ransomware is a problem. It is a rising problem. What safeguards can we install abide by? I'd just add here from a website perspective, definitely keep all your plugins up to date. Typically it's when you've got an old plugin that's not being kept up to date that you can have what's called a JavaScript injection. That way a hacker can get access to your site. So make sure you keep on top of those. Use a high quality host as well. And there's a number of security plugins, for example, iTheme security, you can install for WordPress, and these make it a lot harder for hackers. For example, the WordPress login page can be moved to another URL. Traditionally it's /wp-admin, but just by moving that URL to another URL, which is as simple as clicking a button through one of these security plugins, you can dramatically improve your website security.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that after we finish. I would also encourage you to go to the UK Domain website and download our Stay Safe Online cyber guide. I'd also encourage you to go to the National Cybersecurity Centre website, where they've just produced a new guide on helping small businesses stay safe online.
So we've got another question here from Bob. He's asked around WordPress, is it good enough from a quality perspective? I would say, as Neil mentioned, now I think it's approximately 30% of websites on the internet use WordPress. Some examples include Huffington Post. So there's a huge amount of websites using WordPress, and it's really as good as you make it. So there's two forms. There's WordPress.com, which includes a host and a domain. You pay monthly, and there's a what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG editor, or there's WordPress.org, which is where you actually design the website or have the website designed for you. Because 30% of the web use WordPress, there's a huge support community behind it. So one of the advantages is any help or guidance you need is already out there, and any questions you have probably already been asked. So I would say definitely yes, it is good enough from a quality perspective. There's certain things, if you're diving in a bit deeper, for example, if you have an e-commerce website and you have, say, 10 or 20,000 different products you're listing, then it might be the case there might be an alternative solution that may be better for you. But for the majority of businesses moving online, WordPress, I would say, offers a great solution.
Yeah, exactly. And if, let's say, you did make a mistake and you started with a company that you just couldn't get on with, there's nothing that says you're stuck to them. You could start with a WordPress or a Wix, and if you felt that it wasn't expandable in a way that you wanted to go, or you couldn't do something that you thought was really nice and you wanted to do it, then there's nothing that stops you creating a new website, getting it ready, building it up, testing it, and then at the appropriate moment you just can switch across and you put redirects on all your existing links and move it across to a new site. So don't be put off. The most important thing is just that you start and try something, and you're never stuck to it. You can always change.
Yeah, that's great. We've got a question here from Amata. He works with TV composers and music composers, moving his business online, and he wants to know how he can reach those composers rather than having to actually outreach himself. How can he have those composers come to him? You've asked a little bit about social media as well, tags and adverts. So as we spoke about a bit earlier, it's finding out where composers are hanging out on the internet, what social media sites are they using, what communities. For example, there might be certain popular forums that you could work to run direct adverts on. And then it's looking for what search terms are those composers searching for when they're looking for your product or service, trying to get yourself up in the rankings for those terms. We do have another webinar coming up, as Neil covered, on promoting your website. We'll be diving into those areas a bit more deeper. But it's really trying to get into the head of your customers. So it might even be worth trying to speak to some of your customers, asking them directly, what sites do you use? Where are you hanging out? Where did you come across us? And then trying to emulate and build upon that.
Yeah, certainly I'd add to that. Just to say one word that sums up what you might think about would be content. Developing some great content. Survey your customers or your prospects, see what they're interested in. Look at what sites they use, and then start to build great content, perhaps that fills some of the gaps that they've identified that they can't find, which could be perhaps music composing software reviews. Hey, there isn't a website that does that. Well, we could do one.
We've got a question from Nat here. How easy is it to create an email address to match the website URL? Well, Neil gave some great examples of website builders earlier. I think we had WordPress, Wix and Weebly. Particular Weebly and WordPress both come with an email address, so it's very easy to add that to your site. Lots of hosting solutions offer a free domain, but generally the cheaper ones, it's worth asking them if they come with a free email address. Certainly Weebly does, and certainly WordPress does on the £20 a month plan, but it's definitely worth checking if that's part of their offerings. They also offer good help and support, so you can talk to them through live chat and get that set up, but generally it's quite easy and certainly manageable to do.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I would say that when you have searched your name for your domain name, and the slide I showed you earlier where it presents you with a selection of registrars, as you click through and look at each of their services, they will all pretty much tell you about, you get the domain name for this month, and they will include either 1 or 5 email addresses as part of the service, and they all kind of have bundles that change. Often they change monthly or every couple of months, but that's why I'd encourage you to kind of look and compare the offers and see who has a great Often people get the domain name and then by surprise they go, oh, I've got five emails to go with that as well. Great.
Yeah. We've got a great one here from Patrick for you, Neil. Would you recommend publishing a beta version of your website to get your name out there, or wait until everything is perfect?
Oh, that's a nice question. It's a really nice idea. It's great to get feedback from customers. So I definitely love that idea. I think you want to make sure that the site is of a certain level of quality and that it's spell checked and that it has good functionality, because you don't want to create a bad customer experience where you get negative feedback. So you probably want to have it like 80%, 90% ready. You could have some different options on there which shows we could lay it out like this or like that, so you've got an A/B test going on. And then you could poll your prospects on, do they prefer A or B? But you should definitely think about the customer experience through the website. That should be pretty good, because that might be the first experience they have of your business. So you want it to be a good one, because first impressions are really important. But I love the idea of testing it once you've got it to a certain level of standard of quality that you're happy with.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with Neil on that. I mean, the danger of when you've got your own business is you're being pulled in 1,000 different ways, and you've never got enough time to do everything. And one of the dangers when you start getting online is you can get distracted with setting up different social media sites and everything. So I would agree, as Neil mentioned, to get a minimum quality and then push it out, and really look to get feedback as soon as possible from your customers. What's missing, what would they like added? And then rather than just going from your opinions, you're really working with your customers to create a better customer experience.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say their website is never finished. It's not a static piece of work. It's not like, right, website done. It should grow and evolve and should remain fresh and interesting as you seek to attract new customers, and you want to encourage your existing customers to become advocates and to share that site with people that they know. So keeping it fresh, and just setting aside an hour a month might be enough, or even an hour a week, just to kind of make some changes, keep it fresh, and keep people interested in coming back for more.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a question from two of you, including Daryl, around social media and scheduling those, and are there any tools we'd recommend? So I personally have used and would recommend both Hootsuite and Buffer. There are a number of social media tools you can use. Both of those, in particular Hootsuite, I believe offers a free plan, so you don't need to start incurring expense straight away. Buffer certainly charges on a monthly basis. I think in your question you were asking in particular tweets. There is a free tool called Twafner, which I think you can schedule up to 30 tweets for free, and then you moved on to a paid plan. But if you're looking to do multiple social media sites at the same time, I'd certainly recommend a paid tool such as Buffer. That way you can schedule your LinkedIn posts, your Facebook posts and your Twitter posts all ahead of time. While we're mentioning Facebook, it is worth also saying that Facebook offer a scheduling tool built into their platform. So for Facebook, actually, it's quite easy. You don't need to use any tool. You can just do that within their interface, which is great.
Great, thanks.
Yeah,
nothing to add to that.
We've got a question from Bob here. What is the biggest risk to be managed?
I guess we're talking in terms of website
so
design.
Getting online.
Biggest risk, I guess security of your website. You want to make sure it's secure and that it can't be hacked or taken over. So that's why it's important to pay attention to the things that Sam mentioned earlier. But equally, it should be customer expectations. It's really, really important that if you use social media and you talk about a particular product feature or service that you provide, that the link you provide should take them through to a landing page that talks about what you've just offered them. A lot of people make the mistake of promoting something specific about their product or service and then just throwing them onto the home page, where the customer has then got to hunt around for where's that thing they were just talking about, and often they might give up. So I would encourage you, think about landing pages that talk about the things you're talking about on social media. Meet the expectations, give people what they are expecting to find when they land there.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And definitely look at your website as a sales tool as well. So it's very easy when you start building a website to use language that you wouldn't use if you're talking to your customers. For example, the language you use on your homepage, would you use that language if you're speaking to a customer? Or have you gone a little bit off-piste to a certain extent? So it's trying to keep that in, keep your customers in mind when you're writing your website as well, so making it relevant for them, so they know exactly what it is you do, and the benefit of your service over your competitors when they hit your website.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we've got a question here from Daryl. It's a pressing topic at the moment with a certain deadline coming tomorrow. Have you got any recommendations on the GDPR? So certainly from a website perspective, as GDPR deadline has come closer and closer, there are a lot more guidelines that we can use to draw upon. So certainly making sure your privacy policy is up to date, making sure your opt-in forms are up to date with explicit interest, and then I'd also say looking at your email list, your customer list. So the list you're using and communicating with, have they explicitly opted in? If they haven't, you will need to get that explicit opt-in. Again, we're not legal experts here, but we can just provide guidance on what we can do on our own website.
I think what I would encourage people to do, which is what a lot of us have done, is use the internet, look for podcasts, listen to a podcast in the car on GDPR, what it means, find a video, look on YouTube, gather information from a number of sources, make sure it's from a reputable source, and create a checklist that's relevant to your business.
Yeah, definitely. Checklist idea is great, actually, being able to tick those through.
Yeah.
So we've got a final question here from Matt, unless any of you have got any more burning questions. So do I need to buy all the domain extensions with my company name in it?
Okay, great question. It's pretty much impossible these days to buy all the domain extensions because there are literally thousands now. Some very specific ones, .vip, .horse, .blog, .this, .that. I think you have to kind of be sensible and probably think about registering the main ones. A lot of our customers will register .co.uk, .uk, .org.uk, so they have the main elements of the UK family. They may also register some others like a .com to prevent someone who's a bit more global in their Outlook or international taking hold of that. You don't obviously, if you do register, I think most people might register 5 or 6, perhaps something like that, but you don't need to go crazy with that, but just take the main, most visible ones. And again, your registrar can help with what those would be if you're really not sure, but it would be the most popular ones to look at. I've mentioned a slide on trust. The UK is the most trusted. If you do have other domain names, you simply would put a redirect on them so that if someone used them, it would redirect to your main landing page. But you don't need to go berserk and get hundreds. It's
a good point with the redirects. So you can own 20 different domain names, but have them all pointing to the same website. So you don't necessarily need to build out other websites.
Yeah.
While we're talking about domain names, we have had another question come through from Daryl. The .uk domain name, are there still reserved rights on registering them?
Yes, there are until June 2019. So what have we got? A year and a month? So when the .uk launched, many of the .co.uk's were out there already. They have some reserved rights. After June 2019, that will be released. So I would encourage you, when you're looking to register a business, make sure you look, when you type in the domain name of the business that you're looking for, make sure the .co.uk is available and the .uk, and register them both. Then you're kind of protected and covered. If you find that the .co.uk is taken, it could be by somebody who has rights also to the .uk, so you may not be able to get the .uk, and when you click on it, you'll see that it's reserved rights for someone else. The safest way is to use that search guide that we just showed you in the webinar and make sure they're both available, a nice green tick next to both, and then register them as quick as you can so that you've got them and they're yours.
Yes, great, Neil. Don't have anything to add on that. I think that's it from the question.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you found it useful. Remember the guides. Come back to the website, download all the free guides, and keep in touch with us through startups.co.uk, startups.co.uk website, and hope we'll see you on the next webinar coming up soon. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you.
Goodbye.